Welcome back, Purpose Chasers, to this episode of the Purpose Chasers podcast. Full of gratitude, I am about to interview Mr. Rick Alexander, who's been on the show. This is the third time. He's the only repeater that I've had on the podcast, and the first time he's coming on season 2, which everyone listening knows and Rick may not know, is the rebirth of the Purpose Chasers. I was contemplating ending the content creation around Purpose Chasers, and due to the fact that my motives got crossed, and I'm really emotional. So I'm really hopeful for this interview. We're coming off the back of Rick interviewing me on the podcast. And so it's full of gratitude for you, man. Really grateful to have you back on. Rick is changing. He's like not the man that I used to know. His podcast name changed. He just launched Ambitious Heroes and Heartache, which is his new book, which I'm waiting for him to send, but we're in like lockdown right now. And unlike the books that I receive, I will actually fucking read this one. Maybe I'll just order it on Amazon. That'll probably come quicker. I'm going to do that. Those of you listening, I'm going to order it. But I would rather not know his book before interviewing him. His podcast, as you know from me interviewing him before, Lionheart Radio, has changed to Morning Coffee. Rick, man, in a relationship, committed relationship, happier than I've ever seen you. New book, new podcast name. How the fuck are you, man? I'm grateful to have you back on the show.
Man, thank you. Likewise. Also, just tons of gratitude. That's probably been the game changer, and that's probably why you've noticed such a change, to be honest with you. Like, I think, dude, we convince ourselves of all kinds of things, and we tend to, it's so easy to fall into cynical patterns, and gratitude for me has been the thing that pulls me out of that. It's like, it is the seed from that joy grows out of, really, truly. Like, it's understanding what you do have and working from there. It's like, it's not about working from a place of lack. And so just want to say likewise, just as much gratitude as you have, I'm sure it's reciprocated.
Man, I'm at the checkout on your website right now to order your book.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks. Yeah, I went to send you one, and of course, everyone knows we're in the middle of this quarantine. I went to the post office; they were closed, and yeah, that was that. I've had to get you one online. But there you go.
Yeah, I'm ordering it right now, and the link for those of you who want to also order Rick's book will be in the show notes. I might even do something special. I may actually put the link in the bio for Rick's book. I care about this man that much. So this book had you, I mean, at least my experience of you, because you were talking about writing this, at least the last interview that I did with you, and I knew that you were super excited about this more than Burn Your Couch, I feel, anyways, due to the work and the insight and the thought that you put into this. And you like took off and went abroad to write this also, didn't you?
Yeah, totally. I got out of the military. I went to Australia, and I had plans to backpack Australia and do all this traveling, and I got sucked into this book, and I ended up writing like hours a day. The first manuscript literally came out 694 pages. And the one that you're going to get is like 160 something. So part of why it took me so long to get out, and I don't know if other content creators could probably relate to this, but like, I didn't realize I was growing into the person I had to be to write that book. And so as I would write it, I would glean new insights. I would integrate that knowledge. And it's like part of being a content creator, the struggle is realizing that your last work is not your best, right? It's like what you know now. It's like you're always capable of producing more. So being comfortable and happy with what you've done, and at the same time, proud of what you've done, and at the same time continuing to push on, has been the struggle that I've been in the last couple of years. Why it took a little longer to get this one out.
So with this book, what are the thoughts now that it's released? Because you and I I remember that one of the conversations that we had around this book coming out was like how you were going to promote it. And I remember you and I were talking about some of Tim Ferriss's methods of like, you were, going to get naked in the desert and set yourself on fire and send a press release to news stations. Like, have you done any PR with that, with your book? And what are your plans on that?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't done nearly as much PR as I had originally planned to. And I think part of that was, the world looks profoundly different than it did when I began to execute the launch strategy. And so there's part of that. And then part of it is I struggle with the same shit we all struggle with, which is imposter syndrome, which is feeling like no one's going to give a damn about this. Why do I care? And so I've had to like really reemerge as I've gone through a second round of imposter syndrome. It's like every time you come out of it, you come out a little bit stronger, a little bit better. And, at the same time, I'm getting ready to go to school full time and stuff. So I'm just focusing on, I've realized in life, we all have these ideas of success, and usually those ideas aren't what we actually deem successful. And we have to gain those things to realize that we want something different. Sometimes, like, you got to play the game to know that it is one. And so a lot of it is I was playing this game of what I thought success looked like. And as I was starting to attain it, I realized that for me, it's a little bit deeper. I care more about craft than I thought I did. I care more about message than I thought I did. And so a lot of it has just been pivoting and trying to find my way in the world from a new perspective, which, ironically is a bit what that book is about. It's like you enter into this life with your eyes open and your chest tall. It's going to break your heart 1,000 times. You're not getting out of that. And that's why I felt so compelled to write this book, because, I wrote Burn Your Couch, and in the tool I really relied on in that book was hustle. And that got me to a certain place. But sometimes what gets you here just isn't going to get you there. And so as you go through that heartbreak and you're holding up all the pieces of your life, how do you make sense of that process? That's kind of what led me to write the book. So great question.
I just think about my own experience, and I know you as an individual. So to hear you talk about slowing down and kind of really getting present with what's actually important, like, fills my heart with joy. Because, I've been hustling, since you've known me, and I'm in a phase right now where it's less is more, and the time I get to spend is way more important than the time I'm on my laptop grinding my face off. And, recently, put a decent amount of coin up to hire a production company and a content, distribution company, and to take more off my plate. So shifting from your message or your message and your drive of hustle for the new book, why, can you dive into, like, my message, my audience, the purpose chasers that are listening, like, how would this book benefit their lives?
Well, it's like this. If you're going to build a house worth living in, it's going to require different tools, right? If the only thing you have is a hammer, everything's a nail, and you might get the job done, but you're going to fuck some things up in the process. And for me, it's kind of looking around at, yeah, I'm getting somewhere for sure, but what am I fucking up? Like, what am I hammering through and that I don't need to be? And so to your point, it's like, it is about slowing down, and it's also about being methodical. One of the things that's really potent about the idea of minimalism to me, it's like minimalism in life, but in everything that you do, it's not about throwing everything away. It's actually about the things that you do keep are more important, right? And so it's like, if you could consider, if you look at a tapestry of your life, right, and if you have paint thrown everywhere and there's a red dot in the middle, that red dot doesn't really mean anything. But if that tapestry is blank and there's one red dot, it's more powerful, it's more potent, it's more focusable. And so for me, it's really been like sifting through all of the different aspects of my life and asking myself, well, what's worth keeping, and coming to grips with the fact that this life just isn't that long. It's like, if you really want to do something here with your time, then you kind of got to focus a little bit, and you got to like figure out what's worth your time. I think the real hallmark of a conscious adult is figuring out what's worth in your life being responsible for. Like you start pursuing things, like you start pursuing your dreams. People are going to come at you with all kinds of things about how you should be more responsible and you should focus on, whatever it is for you, whatever your story is, whatever your narrative is. Maybe you got to focus on the benefits. Maybe you got to, whatever it is, right? But at the end of the day, it's like nobody has to get to the end of your life and look back and be happy with what you've built and what you've done. And so if you want to build a house worth living in, you've got to figure out what tools matter to you. And hustle might be one of those tools. It most likely is, but it's not the only one. There are times for action, and there are just as well times for deliberation.
Something that came up for me when you were saying that, and I want to hear your perspective and experience on this, is you're going to hear all kinds of shit. That's my experience. And I believe that the mind is set up in such a way with the room of limiting beliefs, and it's a big room in most of our minds. It's set up in such a way to hear whatever your mind needs to co-sign your inaction or your quitting or your kind of abandoning mission, right? Like, do you believe that if you're in those limiting beliefs, you're going to hear that thing, it's going to co-sign that thought, and yeah, I knew this was a bad idea.
Totally. And I think that that's actually one of the themes that I talk about in the book, is how we will confabulate evidence to confirm our own bias. It doesn't mean it's truth. It means your world is set up. It means that you've evolved for meaning, not truth. And so you're going to find things that give your sense of belief system a meaning, but understand that the things that you believe have articulated your life perfectly for what it is, right? But that what got you here, again, might not get you there. It is what you don't know that can change your life. Because if it was what you knew, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So being open.
Oh, shit. Bring that back, dude. Let's Tarantino that. What did you just say again?
Yeah, it's what you don't know that can change your life. If you knew all of the things you needed to know to become who you were going to become, then we wouldn't be having this conversation and you'd be it. But at the, one of my favorite quotes, Carl Jung, father of analytical psychology, said that, what did he say? Sorry, I got excited.
He said some shit.
He said a bunch of things. That which you want most is going to be found where you're least willing to look. At the end of the day, you are going to confirm your own biases, because you evolve for meaning, not truth. But understand that if there's something that you want that seems to be out of your reach, then you've got to open up to things that you don't know. It is the beliefs that you don't have that will get you there.
Yeah. What are you not seeing? That's a question that I've been asking myself a lot in the midst of the quarantine, the isolation, the COVID-19 shit that we're in, and the confusion. And it's really easy for me to see negativity, and it's really easy for me to see the isolation and the lost opportunities, and maybe we're not even going to get to, really truly have my son's first birthday the way that we thought it was going to go. It's easy to focus on that stuff. But when I pause and I ask myself, what am I not seeing? That's when that's where the gold gets mined. Man, there's a million directions that I can go right here, but I didn't even know you were going to school. So I want to go there. What are you going for?
Oh, I don't know if you want to go there. I'm going for divinity.
Why wouldn't I want to go there?
Oh, it's just Pandora's box, right? We start talking about God, this thing could go anywhere. But yeah, no, I'm going to get my master's of divinity. It's interesting, that's been my quest. I started understanding personal development and psychology just because growth is a high value of mine, and development ran me into psychology, and that helped me make sense of my world even more. And I realized that there's something even underpinning that. And that's the call that I'm sort of following right now.
Dude, we're going to open the box, Purpose Chasers. It has to happen. And the reason why, and I didn't know that he was going for this. I'm super connected to Rick as a human. And we've gotten in some deep rabbit holes of philosophical thought, which is my favorite thought, right? It's like, well, you tell me that it's this, but why is it that? Why couldn't it be something else? I just love that. So you ready? Are you ready for the setup, Purpose Chasers? Here comes the greatest setup question known to man. Rick, Do you believe as a human you can truly transform without the presence of an existence of something greater than ourselves?
Ooh, I think that there are two kinds of growth.
Layup.
I think that there are two kinds of growth in this world. And look, I'll preface all of this by saying, listen, this is one man's opinion. It's one man's journey. And am I open to the fact that you found different answers? Totally. Right.
Can I want to challenge you real quick on that, because it's not your opinion. This is your experience of your journey. And every purpose chaser listening is going to have their own experience of their journey. Right. And like, I go back to the Buddha because I think it's just the work, like his collection of work and Christ's like teachings are two that align so closely with me. But like, just because I tell you it's true doesn't mean that it's true. Go explore and find your own truth.
Yeah.
Right. Buddha said that over and over again. So take what is being said and apply it, and disregard what doesn't apply, but go deep, go into it. So it's your experience. Let's get it.
Yeah. So I think, there are a couple different kinds of growth. You can certainly grow. There's inner ego growth. You can certainly grow in your ego. And I think that if you are approaching growth without a transcendent aspect, that's most likely what you're doing. You're growing inside of your personality structure. The problem with that is that's often a fabrication of what is. And what all spirituality really is to me is what they're actually doing is they're removing all of the bullshit human lenses that you have so that you can see reality for what it really is. And I think that for me, I realized I had a lot of inner ego growth. Burn Your Couch was written from all of the most expanded ego you could have. And I say that in the best way. I don't use that pejoratively, but I also realize that there's more available if you're interested in looking at reality from a new lens and from a different place. And what spirituality to me is it's the ability to remove that lens and look at things at what they really are. And doing that is not without its pain. Like I was saying when I was interviewing you, it's like, you don't get to reorder unless you go through disorder, and we often don't want to go down that path because it feels good to stay in our ego, and the descent into nothingness and realizing how much you don't know can be scary. But that goes back to the beginning of this interview, which is letting go of what it is that you do know and being open to allowing experiences to transform you for the actual better. You find that you're someone completely new. You're a better version of who you used to be in that experience. And I'd also say that all of the personal development in the world isn't saying one new thing that Buddha or Christ didn't say.
Nothing's new. And it goes, Jung's one of my favorite psychologists, philosophers. He would never deem himself a philosopher, right? But like deep thinker. You go to James Allen, As a Man Thinketh, one of the greatest tiny little books ever written, which brings something up for me. I want you to send me your address so that I can send you a book by a man named Werner Earhart. It's his autobiography, and he's one of the most underrated thought contributors, if you will, of our time. But I digress. So he's going for divinity. What's the motive? Like, what is and I wouldn't even say what's your motive, but what is your ideal outcome for this degree that you're setting out to obtain?
I don't hold on tightly to my vision of who I'm supposed to be, because I find, it's like that classic saying, you make plans and then God laughs. So I always feel like this is where faith really matters, but I try to keep myself grounded in what's my next step. Like, where am I being led right now? I'm a writer and a speaker, and I think I'm always going to be. I've also learned to thrive in moments of chaos. And so I'm getting this degree, and I'm focusing on chaplaincy specifically because I've lived through, more chaos than a lot of people have. And I've realized, some people, they're thrust into the world of chaos. I went out and looked for it. There's something about me that was born for it. And so I don't know where the road goes, but I do know that I want to be a light. There's so much darkness in the world. And I don't know. At first I thought maybe, the lie of darkness is that you fight it with more darkness, but then you're playing the wrong game. And so for me, for whatever my life ends up being, I just want to be a light for people. If you think about I write about this in my book, but if you think about the components of what light is, it's just helpful, right? It's not judgmental. It's nothing but helpful. It just is. And I think that's just where I feel called to be. Many more books, though. Many more books and talks will come out of this.
Yeah, come on. You and I are we're not going to end, man. I like in this interview, I'm thinking of, the Purpose Chasers event, but it's not going to be an event. It's going to be a workshop, and the contribution that you're going to provide to that. I don't like events. I don't like how they've become. I don't want to rabbit hole in that, but I don't like the motivational speaker, paired share, another speaker, paired share, another speaker, paired share. I want some deep, deep shit. The world needs deep shit. It's the time that we're in right now is, if that's any indication of where the world is heading, some deep insight is coming for our world, or further distraction, right? There's going to be both sides. So you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Danielle. She's at dbird20 on Instagram. Probably one of the most motivating people you could follow. Truly.
Awesome. When's she coming on?
Purpose Chasers?
Yeah, she's coming on the show. Guys, I'm booking her. And I'm going to book Danielle and Rick to do another episode. Why are you in a relationship with her? What does she do to you as a man, as a human?
Man, the thing that spawned this book for me that we're talking about today was in Western culture, we're like, breakups happen all the time. And so we don't really, we don't give a lot of credence to them or something. The reality is, like, if you get your heart smashed, really, like, if it sucks, it really wrecks your world. And so what happens is, we have this picture of what we think our life is. We have a cohesive picture of what we think the world is that we're operating within. But what happens is, when something goes wrong and one of those pictures gets pulled, you all of a sudden realize that the world you thought you were operating in is no longer, right? Because, so like in this case, like, she breaks up with me. I realize, okay, so she's not who I thought she was. And then if she's not who I thought she was, then maybe I'm not who I thought I was. And now you start going into dissent, because the one thing that humans cannot operate in is no understanding, right? We have 1 + 1 + 1 has to equal 3 in our minds in order for our lives to make sense. And so we order the world in that way. Now, if you start growing in your life and people are you're not getting a positive reaction, now you know why, because people have built their picture of the world based off who they think that you are. And if you start becoming someone new, then that immediately to them, then they have to ask themselves, well, then what am I not doing? Who am I not? What could I be doing? And just because you decided to grow doesn't mean that other people did. So I wanted to throw that in there. So here I am with, all of a sudden, the world doesn't look anything like I thought it was. And I have to ask myself real questions now. Like, is it worth it? Like, what are we here for? What are we doing? Like, I had this whole life built out. I had a company that was killing it. I had all these ideas about the world I thought I was in, and I'm clearly not in that world anymore. And at the same time, I looked back at my journey and I realized I was repeating cycles. Like, I was living the same dramatic relationship, like these same 2-3 year cycles, and people do this all the time. You can look back at your life and think you're reliving the same, like, look back and just say, like, why do I always seem to attract the same kind of person or the same kind of drama? Because what happens is we look out in the world and we try to change the world so it makes sense to us. But if you've got a problem in the world, you're a lot better off looking within and figuring out, how am I contributing to the dissonance in my life? Because that's something you can really do anything about. Most people that try to rearrange their world just see that they're spinning their wheels and they're recreating the same drama. And we have this saying, you see it all the time. People say, well, when you're going through hell, keep going. It's like, no, stop, look around, ask yourself what dumb thing you did that landed you there. How are you contributing to the pain in your life? So those are the questions I started asking myself when I was in this heartbreak. And I just realized, like, I don't know, but I'm not willing to keep going. I'm not willing to perpetuate this bullshit cycle that I seem to be living. So I've got to ask myself how I'm contributing. I want to learn to be good for somebody else. We have all these altruistic notions in this world about how, like, we feel like we shouldn't prioritize ourselves. But the reality is that if you don't know you don't know what you need, and you don't know how to be good for people, right? You have to learn to meet your own needs. And so in that process, I went through this amazing transformation, like truly, truly amazing transformational process where I started coming to grips with all of the ways that I was hurting myself, and I stopped rejecting the pain. We mentioned on the last show, right now in quarantine, you know, weed, porn, alcohol, all these escapisms are just going through the roof. Like, people are escaping at massive rates right now, trying to not deal with the things that they're going through. But if you can accept them, you find that emotions, they don't need you to do anything. They need to be felt. And if you can finally feel them, you'll find that they subside, and then you get to be the author of where you go in your life. And so that's the process that I went through. And I kept telling people, like, I'm not trying to date, like, I want to work through this. And so I realized, like, I went through a year and a half, first time I've been single since I was 15, like really serial monogamy, you know, cycle after cycle, go through this amazing experience, have a dream about Danielle, which is even crazier. We won't get into that, but I had this dream about her. I'm like, well, that was weird. And then, you know, the world brings her into my life. And I realized that in the last year, she had been doing similar work on herself. And we both just had reached this point where we were ready for each other. And that brings me to another point, which is a relationship can be an incredible container for self-exploration and to grow. But you've got to put down all the defense mechanisms that you've used to keep yourself safe. You know, you've got to enter that place vulnerably. And so that requires that you go through tons of work and face all of these demons that are coming up for you. That's why you can't escape, because you'll end up projecting that bullshit onto your partner, and then you'll live the same cycle. And so it was in making sense of this cycle, making sense of how I get out of it, that led me to this book. And then, yeah, ultimately Danielle. She's been the greatest. You know, I talk about the hero's journey in this book a lot because it just helps to make sense of your life. You realize you're being called to different adventures, and you're going to do all the shit that all the heroes do. You're going to deny the call at first, and then eventually you're going to go. And if you go earnestly, you're going to descend into chaos. And so I talk about the hero's journey, but it's true. Like, Danielle has been the biggest call to adventure for me. It's like the opportunity to step up, to put your bullshit down, and to play the hero in your own life. It's the greatest opportunity any human could ask for. And she's been that for me.
Purpose Chasers, I'm going to go on Rick a little bit here, because he very wordingly avoided the question.
Did I?
Yes. Yes, you did. But everything you said was epic. What qualities does she possess? I guess we'll start there. Like, what I want to paint a picture of her in my mind as to the woman that has lifted you. You're a different human, bro.
Sure.
Like, I really want you to, I want to acknowledge that. Like, you're a different human. And for those of you that are listening, maybe you're new to the show, or go listen to the previous 2 episodes with Rick on the podcast. You're going to see he's a different human. Like, he's like a butterfly now. Like, he got out of the cocoon. Who is this chick, dude? I'm like really, really excited. Like, what does she do? How is she? Share her qualities with us.
So, like, honestly, like, one of her highest values is human connection. So she's super heart-centered. You know, she's a physical therapist, and she also owns a training company, and she has a company called Alpha Femme. And so on the alpha side is like her training and you know, strength and conditioning type work. And then on the femme side is like a lot of what she's really passionate about, which is helping people heal their relationship to themselves and to other people. And so, you know, one of her highest qualities is human connection, and or one of her highest values is human connection. And, you know, I look back at my life, and one of the ways that I cope with a really brutal world is an ego. And I devoid myself from human connection, and I go into hustle mode and like, stay the fuck away from me and all these things. And so really, like, her high values have been an invitation to explore where I could become a better human. And like I said, I've answered that call as best as I can and continue to. And so that's like her number one quality. And then another one is this chick at 4 a.m. every single day, and I am not making this up, is up working out. She loses the gym. She's in our apartment building walking stairs. They close the stairs down. She's got dumbbells in the living room, like 4 a.m. every day. This human is like getting after it, building herself into who she wants to be. And, you know, I'm a sleep in, like, you know, I'm just not a morning guy. And that's probably been one of the things I've taken from her is like, you know, for me, it's not 4 a.m. still, it's 6. And that's when I start like my meditative, contemplative, practice. But yeah, so those two qualities have been like the biggest invitation to, and that's what your partner should be. They should invite you to explore the parts of yourself that could be better. That's why they're considered your better half, right? It's like they're going to awaken parts of you that need to be awakened for you to become the person you were meant to be. And that's what she's been for me. And hopefully I've been that for her.
What's her biggest defect that has produced the most growth within you?
It's hard to, the work that me and her both do and the work that you do.
I thought you were about to say it's hard to just pick one.
No. It's hard to, look, the work of a coach to me, like the work that I do, is to hold up a mirror, right? I hold up a mirror so that the client can draw a straight line between the behavior that they're exhibiting and the outcome. Because I know that if they don't see it, doesn't matter how much I tell them, they're not going to make any changes, okay? And so when you notice shadows in your partner, like it becomes difficult because shadows, we get triggered into our shadow behavior and we pull other people into it and we get defensive and we learn to center ourselves in all kinds of unhealthy ways. So, for her, like one of the things that she's been going through is a big individuating process from like her family and her mom. And so she's, she looks out for validation for certain things. And so that quite honestly just aren't helpful, right? And I can see that they're shadows, and I've had a lot of work in this field or area. And so for me, the difficult thing has been, and I'm sure for her as well, is like, how do we communicate openly, which is actually what our webinar is about. How do we communicate openly so that the other person we can invite the other person to work through things that we know aren't good for them without coming off as holier than thou, or without coming off as telling them how to live their lives. It's like we said in your podcast, it's just an invitation to vibrate higher, but there's an art to that. You can't just come guns blazing telling them what's wrong with them, just like they can't with you.
Yeah. And full transparency, I fall into that in, my relationship with Megan. I get frustrated that she's not changing at the rate that I want her to. And then I got to take a step back and realize that it's really, I'm not changing at the rate I want to, like the behaviors that I display within her. And she has one main thing that she likes to chew with her mouth open because she states that the food tastes better. And I want to jump off the porch and hope my neck snaps. You know what I mean? Like, it just, like, I think about it. And sometimes when she's bothered by my behavior, she will do it purposefully. And like, she has this thing where she likes to,
we all do.
She likes to unscrew double stuffed Oreos and lick the cream. And it sounds like somebody's walking in a puddle with like brand new shiny rain boots. It's just like, make it stop. But she does it. She knows my ins and outs. She knows how to push me towards the light. And every falling out that we've ever had, there's been transformation within me. And yeah, we're approaching our 10th year. It's
That's
crazy.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And yeah, it's crazy. And I was talking to a couple of friends, and I want to ask you this question. I was talking to one friend who was on speakerphone. He was like, dude, Bethany, his wife, and him were like about to choke each other. And I was like, well, I don't think that. And he was on speakerphone. So I was like, babe, she's like, she pokes her head out of the kitchen. She goes, honestly, I think this has made us closer. Do you? She's like asking for me. Like, I'm like, yeah, I think it has. There's a calm in the house, and, we're doing more things together, and it's crazy. What has this lockdown, do you think it's expanded you to? Have you, because obviously there's a need for separated time, right? Like, you can't just be like, hey, Danielle, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Right.
Do you want to look out the window with me? Do you want to watch this? Do you want to do this? Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
What's this time done for you two?
Yeah, we've had that conversation. And some people are finding that they're like there's a lot of people that are going to come out of this way worse versions of themselves because they don't know how to ask themselves the right questions when they're in adverse moments. And in some levels it hasn't changed at all because we have truly like made an uncomfortable practice of coming to each other completely open, vulnerable, and like talking through our shadows and stuff. So we've done so much of that work that to a point it's a little bit business as usual, like how we handle our relationship. And then at the same time too, it's like you realize like, well, every moment is like you can choose how you're going to respond in that moment. And like we could, like you were talking about, like we could just shut our brains off and watch Tiger King, and like that could be how we spend our time. But instead, like we've kind of committed to like using this time wisely, like for our value system, like what that means to us. And so we downloaded. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Gottman Institute, but their relationship. She's a real relationship nerd. She like loves that stuff, and so which has been great because I've not been in that world. And so we've downloaded these cards that like ask us all, like they'll ask your partner deep questions, and we've like found all these like challenges, and it's cool because we've just learned a lot about each other. And we've also made it a habit. If we live up on the 11th floor in Denver, and like looking out, it's like you can kind of see the city and the mountains. And so like we've made a habit on a lot of nights of just like laying on our bed, like looking out at the mountains and just like playing card games and shit. And it's been wonderful. I would not ever want to be quarantined with a different human. So
you're very much like me, where like we don't play well with most humans.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, perhaps, right. I definitely know that like there's a lot of ways that this could go south. Like we said at the beginning of the show, it's like gratitude kind of shows you what you do have, and it's easy to focus on what you don't have and then convince yourself that that's somehow reality. But it's not about putting a positive spin on your situation. It's actually about giving both the positive and the negative equal airtime, and then making a decision that benefits your life. And so I'm happy to be in a situation with someone that sees the world in that way.
And yeah, and I guess I want to reframe or define what I meant by that. Like, I don't mean that we don't play well with humans. I meant it's very easy for you. I'll speak for myself, and you can tell me if it relates, because I'm making an assumption of you based off knowing you. It's very easy for me to go into isolation. I welcome it and enjoy it. Right. And that can be, it's been very beneficial for me, and can also lead to a dark place without me knowing that I'm
Totally.
entering a dark place. And with everything that's going on, like isolation from other humans, and I do a lot of Zoom, but isolation from like human contact, not that difficult for me. I lived most of my life with that being my immediate response. So is that what you experience, or was that what I've been making an assumption?
No, I think you're actually spot on. I didn't really understand the first one, but that does make sense for me. I've gotten there a different place, like, and I think some people probably struggle with this, is like, I've seen the world differently, right? Like some people ask why, and I ask why not. And some people, it's like, I'm always willing to ask really tough questions, but because I've seen the world so differently, I've not always been able to articulate why that difference matters. And so it's been easy for me to like, I would rather like go on a long walk and think about the deepest aspects that I'm truly consumed with, like what the hell is God and what does that mean for our lives and what are we doing here? So it's easy for me to like just fall into that. And like you said, at least for me, I'll get in these like cycles of thought that are not productive. Like it'll go somewhere south if I'm not careful. And yeah, exactly. It'd be easy for me to stay in isolation. Yeah.
It's crazy. Just crazy. I'm like really reflecting on the kind of the manifestation of our relationship, friendship, and like, it's, for those of you listening, it's not like we don't have a true bromance. Like Rick and I have never like actually even met each other. I really don't know. I mean,
That's true.
I know how tall he is, but like, I don't, when you meet somebody and you're like, oh wow, they don't look like what I thought they did on Zoom when I saw them from the neck up every time I talk to them. Right. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
we've never even really interacted, but we have gone very, very deep in the Zoom sessions that we've done, in the phone calls that we've had, and to see where we've gone and how we're continuing to grow. And it just fills me with joy, man, to know that there are other humans viewing life as a journey. So before we get into what I'm about to say, no, we're going to get into what I'm about to say. Is Danielle open to coming on the podcast?
Oh, I'm sure she is. Yeah.
Bam.
I don't want to speak for her, but I'll talk to her.
Cool. I want to know the human behind Rick Alexander.
Cool.
I also want to get both of you on to talk about relationships or whatever the hell we talk about. And I think the audience, you guys let me know, Purpose Chasers, let me know if you want to hear that. I want to know if you actually like Rick, if you want to hear more of Rick, because I brought him on. This is the third time. What I can say, Rick, is statistically, your first interview is the most downloaded podcast interview of my show. I have solo episodes that, are at the top, but like when it comes to interview, I wish there were more humans out there like you, but you're a rare breed, as am I, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Cool. He was like, I don't know how to take that. Rick, where can my audience find you? Have your handles changed, on Instagram? And I know you don't do much on Facebook. I know you're real active on Instagram. And also the podcast. Has that changed? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm at Rick Alexander _ and podcast is Morning Coffee with Rick Alexander on all platforms. And then rickalexander.com. It's like pretty easy. And I link up all the stuff that I'm passionate about. And I've got a couple of books now. I'm working on book 3. And, if I have ideas, one thing that's probably changed about me quite a bit is I used to do a show every single day for a couple of years. I did that. And I put out tons and tons of content. And it was great because it forced me to work through my ideas and my systems and stuff like that. And I just reached a point where if I have something to say, I'll put it out if I think it's of value. And if not, I think there's a lot of value in silence too. And so that's changed a little bit, but I'm still sharing ideas that I'm passionate about. And if you've listened to this podcast and it's made you think about some things, I would say like, there's probably some part of you that wonders like, what the hell are we doing here and why? And that's kind of the question that I'm exploring more and more in my content. So if you're interested in that.
I'm excited, bro. Just to continue to know you and watch your path and continue to walk down the road myself. Rick, thank you so much, man. I'm like full. I have deep gratitude. I've never gotten off a podcast episode with as much gratitude and as full of a heart as I am right now, just because, you just interviewed me on my baby, my podcast, my family, my community, my people. I don't mean that in a like ownership kind of way. These are my people. Like I walk with them, like I'm vulnerable with them. I share my struggles with them. They lift me up. Like there are multiple times, and I don't know if you do this, but I'm guessing you do, where like I'm in my head about some shit and I jump over into my community and I see a win or I hear a highlight or somebody comments and says, thank you for this, or sends me a voice message or whatever it is. And I'm like, yeah, those are my people, right? Like we're all in this together.
Totally.
Rick, thank you so much. For those of you listening, I'm on the final checkout page at rickalexander.com. And I'm going to purchase this book once we get off this, just because I think I'm probably going to get it quicker than he can send me one. And I want to start reading it. Rick, thank you so much for who you are. Purpose Chasers, stay tuned for Danielle and Rick. Stay tuned for another Rick. We're going to interview Rick when he starts school to hear how this goes. I've been called to go back to get my PhD a couple times. Hasn't come up for me in a while. It could be some correlation with student loan debt. I don't know. But you're probably going to getting it free.
Free as in I sacrificed 12 years of my life in the military. Yeah, totally.
I didn't mean it like that. That's so funny.
Yeah. No, I'm going to get it free. And then I think, my goal is
free. Yeah. You mean like I nearly died multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. Doing the master's in divinity. And I think probably at some point I will keep pursuing the PhD, but we'll see. I got to get through this hurdle.
Awesome. Thank you so much, brother. I would look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thanks, buddy.